Too anxious for a lot of things. I get very nervous all the time. Not even about like major life things, just like about in everyday situations. Like, this is my regular speaking voice, but if I'm in a public bathroom and someone knocks too suddenly on the stall door, I go into a whole different speaking voice, which is, hey, someone's in here! Someone's in here! So if they're gonna be like, I think there's a carnival barker in there. I think someone's trying to drum up business for a carnival. I decided to do something about all this anxiety recently. I decided I was gonna try and get a Xanax prescription. I don't know if anyone here has ever tried Xanax, but it's fantastic. Very muted claps for Xanax. You don't really get woos, it's more like, yeah. I didn't know how to get a Xanax prescription, though. Drugs like that are tricky sometimes. But I talked to a friend of mine, and he said, hey, I did this. He said that he had a regular doctor's appointment, and at the end of it, he said to his doctor, hey, doctor, sometimes I get nervous on airplanes. And the doctor just wrote him a Xanax prescription. And I was like, yeah, that's the type of lowbrow I'm looking for. I'll take your advice, friend I've never listened to before. So I go to a clinic, and I go in, and I'm just gonna go in for, a regular type of checkup, and at the end, I'll ask about Xanax. So I get to the front desk, and they have a why are you here sheet. And I wanna pick something that will get me in and out really quickly. And I look down, and I see frequent urination. And I was like, perfect. That'll be a super quick visit, I'll just be like, hey, sometimes I pee a lot. And the doctor will be like, me too, crazy, right? And I'll be like, I get nervous on airplanes. So I checked off frequent urination, and I sat down in the waiting area, and I waited for 3 hours. I finally go back to the observation room, and in the observation room, there is a male nurse standing there, and he has a Batman sticker on his stethoscope, a Batman necklace, and a Batman watch. He was kind of moving around the whole time, he was just like, all right, I am too blessed to be stressed. Let's do it. What are you allergic to besides work? And then he'd take something and he'd throw it over his shoulder and be like, beats working. Like, all of his jokes were very anti-work, which is not always what you want from a healthcare professional. The doctor comes in the room, and the doctor looks at my chart, and he says, oh, you're here for frequent urination. How many times a day are you urinating? And I tried to think of a number that would warrant a doctor visit. So I said 11. And that was too many times to say. The doctor looks at me and says, you're peeing 11 times a day. Then you may have something wrong with your prostate. So, what we need to do, some of you are ahead of me. So I don't know exactly how he phrased it, but the gist of it was, hey, if this visit is to continue, I'm going to stick part of my hand up your ass. And I didn't know what to say. Because I couldn't be like, no, that's okay. I was lying. It was a lie to get drugs. Like a crime. So what I did was, I pulled down my pants, and I walked over to the observation table, and I put my hands down on the observation table like this. And by the way, part of me was like, whatever, You know those days when you're like, this might as well happen? Adult life is already so goddamn weird. So I'm bent over like this on the table, and the doctor comes up behind me and goes, no, not on your hands, on your elbows. And he knocks me down like that. And this is so much worse than this. I don't know why. I think it's that this has like a little remaining dignity to it. You know what I mean? This is sort of like, go, stick it in. I am an American. This is like you're leaning over the edge of a cruise ship and you're like, we are approaching Martinique. He knocked me down to my elbows. And then he stuck his hand in. And you know how sometimes you're like, I bet I know what most things feel like, You just think you'll know. I did not know what this was gonna feel like. And this was the actual sound I made. I went, oh. But I didn't say it. Like it came from my vocal cords, but it was totally involuntary. It was as if a ghost had been trapped in my belly and finally flew out towards the light. And then, when he pulled his hand out, we've gotten to know each other pretty well. So I will phrase this as delicately as I can. I did not realize that when the doctor pulls his hand out, it feels like you because the only thing that's ever come out of your butt before has been. So, he pulls his hand out, and I thought that I was into his hand. So I yelled, "I'm sorry!" This is a very routine procedure, by the way, for most doctors. And so far he's had to deal with, "Oh, and I'm sorry." And he didn't even let me off the hook, you know? He wasn't like, don't worry, you didn't into my hand. He just threw his glove away and was like, ah. And I was about to ask about Xanax, but then he said, all right, your prostate's fine, but we still need to do a blood test. So I pulled up my pants and shuffled away, feeling different. And he yells out into the hall, he goes, "Hey, we're doing a blood test, get in here." And Batman dances back in, and he's like, "All right, we're gonna do a blood test. You look different, let's do it." The doctor left the room, so I'm alone with Batman. I just need this blood test to be over, okay? But first I had to tell Batman something. I said, "Batman, look, I'm one of those people who, when you take blood from me, sometimes I can faint. And I was in the waiting area for 3 hours, and I haven't eaten all day, and I'm really worried I'm gonna faint." And Batman said to me, and I'll never forget it, "Psh, you're not gonna faint." So, I stick my arm out, Batman puts the needle in, I immediately collapse on the ground. I wake up and I am covered in sweat lying on the observation table. I wake up, I open my eyes and I see Batman's face. He's looking at me and he goes, "You gotta go!" And I said, "Could I please talk to the doctor though first? Because sometimes I get nervous on airplanes." And Batman said, "The doctor's gone!" So I got my stuff and I left. The moral of the story is that if you've been nervous your entire life, you should ask your doctor about Xanax, because if you lie to him, he will stick his finger in your ass. And if you do suffer from frequent urination, keep it to yourself. I went to that clinic 2 years later for a different checkup, and as I was leaving, who did I run into but Batman? And he smiled at me, and he was wearing reading glasses to show that time had passed. Being married's so nice, I never knew relationships were supposed to make you feel better about yourself. That's not really a joke, that's just a little sweet thing I like to say. Because I'd been in relationships where I got cheated on, like long ones. I don't know if you've ever been in a long relationship where you got cheated on, but it changes your whole worldview. Because like when I was a kid, I used to watch America's Most Wanted. You know how kids do. And I would always think to myself, how could another person kill someone? How could a human being kill another human being? And then I got cheated on, and I was like, oh, okay. I'm not gonna do it, but I totally get it. And I don't mean in that way of like, no one else can have you. Like, I don't care about that. It's just creepy to have an ex out there after things have ended badly. They have a lot of information. Anyone who's seen my dick and met my parents needs to die. I can't have them roaming around. Strange, the passage of... It's wrong to make fun of people, you know, but it's so fun sometimes. I've written for some TV shows, and, you know, on a major TV show, you have to be careful about what you say about people, because a lot of people can get offended, or so it has been explained to me. I'll tell you this, I was writing for an awards show once, and I got into some trouble. I wrote a joke for this awards show that had the word midget in it. And someone from the network came down to our offices, and he said to me, hey, you can't put the word midget on TV. And I said, I sure would like to. And he said, no, midget is as bad as the N-word. First off, no. No, it's not. Do you know how I know it's not? I said to him, is because we're saying the word midget, and we're not even saying what the N-word is. If you're comparing the badness of two words, and you won't even say one of them, that's the worst word. I don't mean to complain about censorship at all, though, because as you probably have seen by now, you can basically say whatever you want on television. It's ridiculous. You can say anything you want. And if you don't believe me, you should watch a little program called Law and Order Special Victims Unit. Yeah, a show that I love, because on that show, you can say the grossest things you've ever heard in your life. No, you can't say, like, the F word. You can't say that on Special Victims Unit. But people walk around on SVU going like, looks like the victim had anal contusions. Yo, looks like we found semen and fecal matter in the victim's ear canal. Those are two real things that I heard on Law and Order SVU at 3 in the afternoon. Both spoken by Ice-T. Ice-T is a detective with the Special Victims Unit. He handles New York's most sensitive cases. I love Ice-T on SVU. He is fantastic. He's awesome. What's so great about him is that he's been with the SVU for like 11 years now. But he still treats every case like it's his first in terms of total confusion. Sometimes they'll be in the middle of an investigation, and Ice-T will be like, yo, you telling me this dude gets off on little girls with pigtails? It's like, yeah, Ice. He's a pedophile. You work in the sex crimes division. You're gonna have to get used to that. You know how they try and tie in like current events to every episode of SVU? So there was this episode I saw a while ago that was about sex addiction, because a lot of celebrities had come out as sex addicts. So the episode's about sex addiction. There is a scene in the episode where the other detectives are trying to teach Ice-T what sex addiction is, and it takes a couple of minutes. And finally, Ice-T gets it, and they cut to him in this close-up, and he goes, oh, I get it. You mean like when someone drinks too much? Or snorts cocaine, or bets the house on the ponies. I was like, yeah, you got it, man. And I was psyched that Ice-T understood so that they could continue with the investigation. But I could have watched another 4 hours of Ice-T just naming examples. Just that close up. And Ice-T like when someone smokes too many cigarettes, or like when someone shops too much with credit cards, or like when someone plays too many scratchy lotteries, or like when someone eats too much chocolate cake, or like when someone eats too much chocolate cake and then barfs it up. And he would just keep talking, and it would slowly fade out and say executive producer Dick Wolf. That'd be my ideal episode. That'd be a good one. I also watched this show called Cold Case Files. On Cold Case Files, they solve old murders. And it's really interesting, because what I learned from it is that it was really easy to get away with murder before they knew about DNA. It was ridiculously easy. Like, what was even going on back then? What was a murder investigation like in 1935? One cop would just walk in and be like, detective, we found a pool of the killer's blood in that hallway. And he would just be like, gross. Mop it up. Now then, back to my hunch. Look for clues. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll draw chalk around where the body is. That way we'll know where it was. Also, a couple of years ago, I saw this movie called Public Enemies with Johnny Depp. It was about old bank robbers and stuff. Here's how easy it was to get away with bank robbery back in the 30s. As long as you weren't still there when the police arrived, you had a 99% chance of getting away with it. To the point that, like, those old bank robbers, they take credit for the bank robberies. Like, they come running out of there and they're like, ha ha ha! And if anyone asks, you tell them it was Golden Joe and the Suggins gang. And then they, like, shoot Suggins into the side of the wall. It's like, what, were bullets free back then? And they don't even disguise themselves. They dress up for the bank robbery. They're rolling in there in, like, big suits and hats like they're going to church in Atlanta. They make a day of it. I'm John Mulaney, finally a name on this show. I had a great day. I hope you're all well. I'm flattered to be here. I was walking downtown today. I was on West 12th Street. I was downtown. I was walking towards this guy. He's walking towards me. He's on his cell phone. We're both downtown. We're on West 12th. As he walks past me, I hear him say, "No, I can't meet right now. I'm way uptown." And then he looked at me and he winked and he kept walking. That guy should be declared mayor of New York City. I don't care if he's had a scandal, automatic mayor, and he probably has, if that's how he conducts himself on a day-to-day basis. If he's lying about his whereabouts at 2 o'clock on a Saturday while I high-fiving random guys on the street. I was glad I noticed him. I normally don't notice people. I zone out constantly. Have you ever zoned out for a few minutes? I've been zoned out since 2014. All day long, I wander into traffic, walking like Charlie Chaplin, listening to a podcast while thinking about a different podcast. I can zone out anywhere. I was at the doctor's office. He was reading me the results of a blood test. It was important. I listened, and I zoned out. I was like, nah, I'm gonna stare at the wall and think my thoughts. I was like, none of the Beatles had mustaches. But then one day, all of them had mustaches. That's weird. I can't think of a time a group has done that. Some people in my life don't want me to zone out as much. They want me to focus, and they want me to be in the moment, and they want me to do this by meditating. I don't know if you've ever tried meditating, but I've been trying it. This is how you meditate, okay? You sit on the floor with your back perfectly straight, which I hate more than ISIS, and then you take deep breaths. I don't like sitting up straight, all right? It's never gonna happen. If meditating was sitting hunched over on the toilet with your elbow on your knee while kind of looking at your phone, I'd be the Dalai Lama. I don't like sitting up straight. So you sit up straight and you breathe, and this helps you stay in the moment. Don't bother. The moment is mediocre at best. Yeah, I mean, it's fine. Let's all try right now. Let's all be in the moment in silence right now. Sucked, right? Not fun at all. That was boring. You gotta zone out. You have an imagination. You have a movie theater in your brain that plays fake arguments that you win. Have you ever just been sitting there thinking about something for like 20, 25 minutes, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I'm driving, and you remember? I'm going 75 miles an hour. I have been for a while. I could have changed so many lives. Sometimes my wife, I have this wife, she'll be like, are you watching the road? And I'm always like, I am looking through the windshield. And I'm not gonna hit anyone. But no, I'm thinking about the Beatles. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Night of Too Many Stars.
Guest is a writer on Saturday Night Live whose new stand-up special, John Mulaney, New in Town, airs on Comedy Central this Saturday at 10 p.m. Please welcome the very funny John Mulaney.
Hi, how are you? Hello, nice to meet you. My name's John Mulaney. I hope you're doing well. I'm doing very well myself. I am about to be 30 years old, which is very exciting. But I was hoping that by now, thank you. I was hoping that by now I would look older, and I don't. I don't look older at all, I just look worse. That's what's happened. Like when I'm on the street now, nobody's ever like, hey, look at that man. They're just like, whoa, that tall child looks terrible. Get some rest, tall child. You can't keep burning the candle at both ends. I have a girlfriend now, and she's a woman, and she's great, and I love her very much, and our relationship is going well. So a few months ago, she said that it was time for her to meet my parents, because that is what people do when a relationship is going well. They meet each other's parents. And I have never understood that. I've never been with my girlfriend and thought, oh, babe, tonight is going great. But do you know what would make it perfect? Charles and Ellen Mulaney. Yeah, let's get them in the mix. We've been going pretty hot and heavy lately. I think it's time we bring in 2 older Catholic people. I live in New York City. It's a great place. And I was coming home the other night. I want to tell you about this. I was coming home, and in front of my building, on the street, I saw a wheelchair knocked over on its side with no one in it. That is such a bad thing to see. Something happened there. You hope it was a miracle, but probably not. Probably something worse than a miracle. New York is very safe, though. It's a very safe city because on most streets, they're filming Law and Order Special Victims Unit. They're always doing that. That's my favorite show on television. I love Law and Order SVU because on SVU, you can say the grossest, sickest things you've ever heard in your life. You can say anything on SVU. No, you can't say the F word, but people walk around on that show going like, looks like the victim has anal contusions. Looks like we found semen and fecal matter in the victim's ear canal. Those are 2 real things that I heard on Law and Order Special Victims Unit at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Both spoken by Ice-T. Ice-T is a detective with the Special Victims Unit. He handles New York's most sensitive cases. I love Ice-T on SVU. He's awesome. And what I especially love about him is that he's been with the SVU, about 11 years now, but he still treats every case like it's his first in terms of total confusion. Like, they will be in the middle of an investigation, and Ice-T will just be like, yo, you telling me this dude gets off on little girls with pigtails? It's like, yeah, Ice. He's a pedophile. You work in the sex crimes division. You're gonna have to get used to that. Oh, there was this one episode recently where the episode was about sex addiction. So they were talking about sex addicts. And there was a scene where the other detectives are trying to teach Ice-T what sex addiction is. And it takes a couple of minutes. And finally, Ice-T gets it, and they cut to him in this close-up. And he goes, oh, I get it. You mean like when someone drinks too much? Or snorts cocaine? Or bets the house on the ponies? And I was like, yeah, man, you got it. And I was psyched that Ice-T understood and that they could move on with the investigation. But I could have watched another 4 hours of him just naming examples. Just that shot of Ice-T. And him like, or like when someone smokes too many cigarettes. Or like when someone shops too much with credit cards. Or like when someone plays too many scratchy lotteries. Or like when someone eats too much chocolate cake. Or like when someone eats too much chocolate cake and then barfs it up. And he would just keep talking, and it would slowly fade out and say executive producer Dick Wolf. That'd be my ideal episode. Thank you very much. I'm John Mulaney. Thanks.